for Bruce.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The House do now adjourn. I mean, there's no relevance rules, so we can talk about whatever we want, but let's talk about that for a moment. The House may as well adjourn. It may as well. There's been no point to being here the last 4 weeks, no reason whatsoever. Now, I've been elected for the last 3.5 years. This has been the most pathetic, the most ridiculous session of parliament that I've endured, and that's a big call. You know, we were here that time the government lost control of the parliament last term because half their members just went off to the airport and flew home. They didn't have enough members left to run the place. And then there was that great week, of course, when they knifed good old Malcolm. Whatever happened to Malcolm? Never did really find out. He just kind of disappeared. Remember that time that they hated each other so much they couldn't even be in here together, so they just shut the parliament down. And then there was the popcorn weeks leading up to that where they were killing each other. But at least they had a purpose then. At least they had some legislation to debate. There were things that they wanted to do for the country. We could come here representing our electorates, representing our values in the parties that brought us here, and have a debate about what the right thing for the country was. But none of that anymore. This week they introduced 2 pieces of legislation, and we had 4.5 days in the National Parliament debating the appropriation bill that everyone agrees with because it means the government pays its bills. That's it. That was the main purpose of the last 2 weeks. There's been not one division on a second reading bill in the last 4 weeks because the only legislation the government's serving up and debating, frankly, is the ordinary drivel of government, the stuff the public service feeds up through the machine and says, well, it's about time we changed a few words in this bill and off we go. This is a debating chamber. It's the heart of democracy, and the government is terrified of debate. Every time the opposition leader gets on his feet to have a debate with the Prime Minister, they use their numbers to shut him down, because the Prime Minister is terrified of a head-to-head debate. Indeed, it's the most common vote that the government members have taken. The most common motion they move is to gag the opposition in a debating chamber. Well, I think that matters. There are problems in the real world. The economy is floundering. It's been weak for years. The government has no plans and no purpose. They've got no plan for the economy, no plan for jobs, no plan for wages, no plan for climate change. The government's led by a guy who's a salesman. He's not a leader. We saw that, of course, when the country was burning. At the very moment we needed leadership, he ran away and made a Liberal Party ad. He hid in Canberra there and made a Liberal Party ad, politicising the Defence Forces, and day after day over there in question time, he's too gutless to admit it. Then, of course, there's the $2 billion bushfire fund. He's running around making ads about his bushfire fund, and we learned in Senate estimates there is no bushfire fund. It doesn't exist. There is no bushfire recovery authority. It doesn't exist. It's a guy sitting in the Prime Minister's department. But he can't spin his way out of reality on the economy. We've now heard him all week desperately trying to hide behind the coronavirus to avoid the blame for what is going on in the economy, to hide the fact that the economy is weak and floundering on his watch. Tries to pretend that he hasn't actually been there for 7 years. Oh, I've only been the Prime Minister for a year, you know, we're getting it together, we'll find a purpose. He was the Treasurer for most of the government's 7 years. He can't avoid responsibility. And Andrew Leigh, the member for Fenner, used a great Warren Buffett quote. He said, when the tide goes out, you discover who's been swimming naked. Well, the government is being exposed. Economic growth is tanking. The last quarter's growth was lower than the previous quarter's growth. We heard today the Prime Minister can't commit that we're not heading for a recession, the first in 29 years. Wages growth is the lowest ever on record under this government, and their response, let's cut more penalty rates, that'll help. Consumption is anaemic. Underemployment is now at record highs. 2 million Australians, nearly 2 million, cannot get work or cannot get enough work. And business investment under this government, the very key to improving productivity, which is the only thing really that's going to improve living standards, business investment has fallen by 20% since the Liberals were elected, and it's continuing to get worse. They should just swallow their pride and accept the policy that Labor took to the last election. I bet they might bury that in their little stimulus. They've now started saying the word stimulus this week, and that's a good thing, that they finally recognise how weak the economy is. They could have listened to the Reserve Bank 6 months ago that said we need the government to do more. But they should listen to the Reserve Bank and swallow their pride and adopt Labor's policy around business investment tax breaks. They could do something about Newstart. They could bring forward the tax cuts and stop fighting amongst themselves.
Time